Hello and welcome to Dish Shelved with Adam White. Today I'm going to continue in my newer format. I'm going to talk a little bit about a book I read, then I'm going to talk about a manga I read, and then I have a small book haul at the end to tell you about. Uh, so, getting right to it, the book I read was called Bolano, A Biography and Conversations by Monica Maristane. If you recall a few weeks ago, or you might not, I did a video about The Savage Detectives by Roberto Bolano, and I really enjoyed it. And I like reading about authors too when I like their work. And I looked up and found that this is the closest thing to a biography that there is about him. Uh, Monica Maristane says right in the beginning that in order to write a full biography of him, you'd have to have access to his notes and his papers and his letters and manuscripts and things like that, and that she didn't have that. So, what she did was she put together a book that was where she took interviews with people that knew him. Now, the interesting part about this is it's kind of like his book, The Savage Detectives, because in it, the whole, through most of the book, except for the bookended parts, is kind of like interviews with people about the two main characters and how they knew them and how they related to them. Well, she takes the same approach in this, and each chapter focuses on anywhere from one to three or four people that knew Roberto Bolano and how they interacted with him, how they met him, what they thought of him. Uh, it's a really interesting, and I still call it a biography because it is. It's just in conversations, like the title says. And I really enjoyed this book. It gave you a lot of insight into the real author and how his life kind of coincided with his work. And Bologna was a determined writer from a very young age. He believed that poetry was the highest form of writing, but he found most of his success for the short time that he had it before he died with his longer novels. I haven't read any of his poetry yet, but I'm going to. I also have downloaded several of his other books, which I intend on reading at some point here. But anyway, it interviews people that knew him. It interviews his, it's his wife, but not, I don't know if they kind of separated, but I don't know that they ever got divorced. It never really does say. But she has sole control of all his work and any of his papers and stuff, and she doesn't want to give them out to anybody, I guess. And so that's why you get the biography in this as conversations with people. And some of it's straight interview, and others it's written, in sections by the author. And anyway, he just lived a very interesting life. He never had a lot of money. He was a huge smoker, but he never drank alcohol or took drugs, which they said in the Americas, in America especially, there was uh, people said, "Oh, he was a drug addict and all this." Well, he wasn't. Uh, and you see kind of the real side of him and all the different jobs he took, but everything was so that he could write because writing was what he wanted to do. And he'd play pranks on his friends. He uh, he just was seemed like a real interesting guy. He kind of mellowed out by the time he died when he was 50, and of a liver failure. which is a real shame because we could have had a lot more work from him. But he died in 2003, and the Savage Detectives came out in 1998. Uh, and so that he didn't really get to see a lot of his fame. A lot of it was after he had died, which is the truth with so many authors and painters and poets. And you don't really get the full extent of how important they were until they're gone. Uh, and I just had something else that I wanted to say, and I can't remember what it was on that topic. But anyway, he kind of mellowed out uh, as he got a little bit older, and he was really dedicated to his kids. He had two children, and just a real interesting guy. Uh, all of the American translation of Savage Detectives didn't come out until 2007, so it was after he had already died that he found success in America. And but anyway, he was never really interested in success, it seemed like, but he didn't shy away from it either. If he saw like a review of his work that was positive, it always put a smile on his face. He just was a really interesting guy. And this book did a really good job of talking about him. She also has, Monica Maristane has another book. It's a shorter book, but it's his last interview that he ever did. She did an interview with him, and I'm planning on reading that too because some of it appears in here, but not all of it. But really interesting book. I had to get it secondhand because it's not on Kindle or anything. Uh, but it was really worth it. It wasn't very expensive. And I really, really enjoyed this book. Okay, now the manga I'm going to talk about is called Under Ninja, and it's by Kengo Hanazawa. Again, you'll forgive me if I don't get the names quite right. Uh, I just finished reading it, and I have kind of mixed feelings. I really enjoyed the art, but the story just didn't seem to go anywhere. The setup is that there's over 200,000 ninjas in Japan and have been ever since the Second World War, but they're all in hiding and they have different levels of involvement in being a ninja. And some of them do constant jobs, and some of them are just unemployed ninjas that are waiting around for something to come along. Well, our main character in it is one of those guys who's just kind of has nothing and is kind of waiting around for a job. Well, he gets one, but then it's all before the job that is what this whole first volume is about. And it's just kind of him interacting with his neighbors and uh, humor related to his neighbor stealing his other neighbor's bra and wearing it. And just there was some adult content in it. And, but I just didn't seem to understand where it was going. Because, like I said, supposedly got this job where he has to infiltrate a high school, but you never get to that point in this volume. And he gets another job right after that where he is supposed to take down a foreigner who says he wants to become a ninja, but they want to take him out and make an example of him. That isn't how things work. But none of that actually takes place in here. He just gets those jobs, and it's just him drinking beer and having movie marathons. And I just really, it was hard to get into. Uh, Future volumes might be better. There was a framing sequence where I guess it was police tactical officers, go in and find somebody killed by a sword, and then it repeats at the end, and you get a little information on another ninja who took care of it, and it's just kind of a setup to a mystery, but you really don't know what's going on there either. So overall, I don't really recommend this. Like I said, the art was good. The art was also very detailed. Um, like this, you get all that stuff in the background. Usually in manga, you get very limited backgrounds, but in this one, you got a lot of really good art. The art was really excellent in this, and that's something that was definitely worth it for the art, which was just fantastic. But again, overall, I don't know that I can really recommend it, but it was an interesting read, and if you like ninjas or just good art on manga, then you might want to pick it up. Okay, last thing, I got a couple of books I want to show you. I read a book a couple years ago called Blood and Thunder. It was a biography of Robert E. Howard, and I really, really enjoyed it. I even thought about rereading it, but I can't find it, which is typical with me and a lot of my stuff. As you can see behind me here, I live in a mess. Uh, anyway, I got this book called Renegades and Rogues, The Life and Legacy of Robert E. Howard by Todd Vick. I'm not sure entirely. I mean, I know it's a biography of Robert E. Howard, and that's really all I needed to know. But I it is available on Kindle too, but I got the hardcover of it instead. Uh, but uh, looks like it might be a really good biography of him, and I'm eager to read it. I think it might be a little bit newer than the other one. I'm not sure. Let me see. See, this one says, oh yeah, this is 2021. So it's a little bit newer, I think, than the Blood and Thunder. So I might have a few new insights, but I love Robert E. Howard, so I recommend this. Hopefully, the other book I got was John Severin by Greg Biga and John B. Cook. It's from Tomorrow's Press. Tomorrow's Press does a lot of excellent, excellent books on comic creators, and this is one of the newest ones they've done. John Severin was an artist, especially back in I think the 50s and 60s and even 70s, and he did a lot of westerns and war comics and stuff like that. But I've always loved John Severin's art, so I wanted to get this biography of him. You can see on the back there some of his western drawing there, but Tomorrow's does an excellent job of. Let me see if here's some more of his work. Two Fisted Tales. But Tomorrow's does an excellent job covering the history of comics and their creators that have been either forgotten or just kind of put by the wayside. They have an ongoing magazine dedicated to Jack Kirby. They have one called Alter Ego that just talks about stuff that's past in comics. They've got a lot of really great stuff, and I highly recommend checking out their Tomorrow's website because they just have a wealth of information. You can get most everything of theirs digitally, and you can or you can get it in this case it's a hardcover. But Tomorrow's Press has excellent, excellent stuff. I fully expect this John Severin book to be excellent, and I'm looking forward to reading it. Anyway, that's what I've got for you this week. I went longer than I thought I would on what I had to go with, but hopefully you'll enjoy this new format. Uh, I am going to be doing coming up June on the Range, so I will be focusing on Westerns. I may focus on other stuff. I know I need to get back to talking about my World's Finest project. I just, for time constraints, have skipped that for the last week or two here. So, anyway, thank you very much for listening to me talk about books. And I really appreciate everyone who watches. And I will see you guys next week.